Hello, welcome to episode 172 in this series where I am programming an NES game live on Twitch from scratch. In the last episode, we worked on fixing up the last little bits of the export process, not communicating properly with the ROM and expected format, and then we changed it so that the tiles got loaded into the character region without the title screen. If you remember, whenever we would view the character viewer, the title screen would be in this area here, and then we'd have the tiles for the actual map loaded into the character RAM. And I wanted to change that because it was wasted space once we left the title screen. Excuse me, this will give us a little bit more space to work with. One thing we could do, so actually we can see exactly what happened there. One thing we could do tonight is look at that issue that we just saw here where you get the weird problem where the scrolling gets messed up when you get to the end of the level. The other thing we could do is work on enemies. I'm sort of inclined to fix this bug. I was actually wanting to do enemy programming, but at the same time, this bug is pretty annoying, the way it works and the way it looks. So I think I probably want to work on figuring out why that happens. It looks like it happens when we get to excuse me, the last part of the level, right before. I mean, they do and they don't. Bug fixes are important, but it's not like it totally breaks the game. So, you know, it's annoying that it does it, but it's also not something where it's not the worst bug I've seen, but it is pretty annoying. So I think I'll probably get this fixed first. And then we can work on enemy stuff later. Hope everybody had a good weekend, and maybe have some time off for the holidays. I do myself personally, and so to that end, next week I won't be streaming. I'm going to try and take some time off, just in general. And I know I've missed streams here or there, but that was not like specifically taking time off for streaming or from streaming. That was just, you know, things came up and I couldn't stream. So let's see why we get this bug occurring specifically here, and if there's some sort of, if it's like literally the switch over to repeat scroll that's causing it, or if there's something else. I apologize if I'm clearing my throat. I have some hot tea here to try and mitigate that, but it's still gonna keep happening a little bit. Let's see, so let's see if it corresponds to when we hit that breakpoint. All right, so there's the breakpoint. Where's the call stack? Here's our call stack. So let's see if. Okay, so that's. Oops, that's a little too small. I wanted to be able to see the PPU at the same time. Alright, I think that'll work. So let's see if we can... Okay, so the first problem is already evident, is that the scrolling for some reason is flipped up to the top, which then... so then why... It's interesting that that then caused... the attribute update like that. So let's look at that again. So we're scrolling in the bottom section here. We load that last row. Are we touching the scroll registers in repeat scroll? ...2006... Huh. Why did that change the scroll? 2005 is the scroll register, right? Excuse me. That's not what I want. I want the reference. And I want the PPU. Yeah, 2005 is the scroll. So, for some reason, that's messing up the scroll register. Or maybe it's not messing up the scroll register. Maybe it's messing up the register that determines if we're looking at the top or the bottom, or if we're offsetting the scroll. Let's see. Increment mode, name table select. So name table select is part of 2000. Name table. Is there... Is this what I'm thinking? BG adder, is that the name table select? Assume it probably is. Let's see here. Let me just let this run for a moment and see when we get to the other name table. Did that get flipped over? No. Huh. What is... I thought for sure it would have that here. In the PPU. BG enabled. Vertical blank, right toggle. Not actually seeing any change. I see sprite 0 hit, but I don't see anything flipping there. I wonder if it's just not a register that it keeps track of. Oh, BG address is... Okay, I see what it is. So BG address is talking about where in the character view, where in the RAM the background data starts at. It could be at either 0 or 1000 here. So it doesn't have anything where it's showing me if the name table select is toggled. I imagine that must be what the problem is, though. Excuse me. Because there's no other reason for it to jump like that. I wonder if writing... Does writing to 2006 do that? That would be weird that I never encountered that before. Access to PPU scroll and PPU address during the screen refresh produces interesting raster effects. Starting position of each scan line. Maybe that's why. Maybe because it's doing the load level. I bet that's why. I have a feeling... Alright, so let's back up 1 second. So we're doing this process game, right? And that's just going through and it's processing what needs to happen on each frame of the game. So most of it is, processing the camera scroll. Some of it is processing the object loop. Some of it is processing the projectile loop. And so we're getting all of that stuff taken care of here. But the problem, I think, is that we are calling load level in the middle of this where we have the potential that the screen is in the middle of updating. So that would mean that would cause that visual effect. So let's see. One thing we could do is wait for v-blank. Like this is not a not a good way to do this, but just to kind of test that theory, let's see if that makes the weird visual effect go away. Hey, how's it going, Deedle? Excuse me. Trying to fix a bug when we switch over from scrolling to repeat scrolling. I think it might be sort of a weird timing issue. But we'll see. That definitely... That was better. It wasn't as... Well, that one was actually... That time, I didn't actually see it do it. Okay, so that was better. So that definitely... That's got to be part of it. So before we were seeing weird issues where the name table was getting updated, or maybe even the attributes, and here we're just seeing, we're still seeing that little flick in the scrolling, but it's definitely better. And that time I didn't see it at all, actually. Yeah, let's slow it down again. This now might just be an error in... Oh, it's still doing... The switch over to the top name table for a moment. But once it comes back, it's actually aligned properly. So if you're not, if you blink, you miss it, right? Like it's, like that time I couldn't see it. I doubt you guys saw it on the stream. That time I saw it. So it's a really kind of, well, if it were set to, that is a good question. That's a good question. I don't know if the camera is causing that with the scrolling, or if it's... Yeah, let's check. You might be right. You might be right. It might actually not be going up to the upper name table, but just being forced down. Yeah. What we can do is... Where are my scripts? I think the script still works. It's been a while since I've used these. Where is it? Options, tools, debug, script window. There it is. I knew I had it here somewhere. All right, so camera looks okay going into it. Getting down to the wire here, and then what we should see is that it does not do... Oh, yeah, Let's see. One, 0, 35.99. So 35.99. $35.99 is correct in the sense that it is the next scroll position, but it is it's also doing something weird. So like $35.99 divided by 240 gets me 14. Well, that's not actually what I wanted to. Well, it is sort of. 14 times 240 gets me 3360. So that's. So it is exactly one frame away. So that would mean that the screen, the camera, that's the camera position, but the actual scroll position would be bumping back around. We should look and see. Use the new camera position to adjust the player position. Increment scroll Y. Process game. So it goes back to the beginning, right? Yep. And then yeah, you're right. I mean, there's that the numbers make sense. What I'm still trying to determine is if the issue is then it's not bumping the camera, the selected name table from 1 to 0 appropriately at that time. It actually looks like it's fine, and then it flips down to, or flips up to the top name table and then gets offset properly after that. Like, see, there's that one frame. And the only way it would be able to do that is based on if name table the selected name table is 0. Is there a way? Scroll registers are always just set to. Can I actually read the content of 2000 in the emulator? See, that was what I was looking at before. I don't see the name table select anywhere here. Oh, is that no, name table address would be probably the address that we told it to write to. In the PPU viewer, I don't see the scroll address or the scroll value. Show PPU scroll overlay. Debugger doesn't show the most recent writes to 2005. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I could you have to create a watch in the debugger. Yeah. So I have to create a watch to see when it writes to 2000, because 2000 is the register that controls the name table selection here in the first 2 bits, and then I think I'm not, well, we'll see. I'm pretty sure I don't care about the what's it called? I'm pretty sure I don't care about the scroll right so much as I'm interested in knowing when we're swapping between the first and the second name table. So, am I doing this a lot? No, I'm doing this all the time. Okay. That doesn't help. Okay, so that's not going to help because I'm writing that register a lot. Let's see. Let's put a breakpoint when we write to swap, which is what controls the actual swapping between the two. If it doesn't happen, then something's going on, but I think it will. Alright, so we're storing this to tell it to go. We're telling swap that it's going to be 0, which makes sense because we're going from this name table to that name table now. So now, are we going to swap it twice after this? Accidentally? No. We're just doing it once. So, oh, get out of here. So it's okay. It looks like the bug might be then with whatever we're setting the scroll register to. What is the value of scroll Y right now? It's FF. Oh, but FF is not. That's weird though. That's not what we're seeing here. Right, because FF is, it would push it down into this name table. Oh, but then we're setting. Well, no, that's right, because 255 is too many. Right, like the only value that makes sense there is 240, I guess, or 239 technically is fine too. So we're setting that. All right, so now we're going to do what you suggested initially, Deedle, and we're going to look at, although we're setting the scroll registers all the time, so I got to do this kind of, I got to snipe it. I got to get in there just as we're seeing the problem, basically, and set the breakpoint. So let's see. Scroll Y is 2. Scroll Y is 1. Scroll Y is 0. Ah, okay. So that was the problem, is that it was set to 0. It was set to 0, but we had flipped to this name table. So then it caused us to display this name table first, and then now we're coming in and it's set to EF, and it should be okay this next time. Yeah, okay. So why was it 0 after doing the swap? Is it because load level is setting it wrong? Load X and store X into scroll Y. Param 3. If 0 blanks and redraws the map, otherwise it will begin drawing in place. So if it's not equal, so if it's not 0, it's drawing in place, so it should leave this alone. Well, yes and no. Either it needs to be 0 in name table 2, or it needs to be 239 in name table 1, right? Like one or the other, but it's doing both, which is what's causing the problem here. So, all right, so now it's not going to let me do that. I guess I could have, that was dumb. I could have just highlighted scroll Y and gotten the address this way. 41. So again, this is the same sort of thing. We gotta kind of stealthily enable the breakpoint here, because it's going to be updated all the time. But once we get to a point where it matters, then we should be able to see like what's doing the update. So scroll Y is 2. That's 1. All right, so now we just loaded the level. And so it's going to increment the scroll Y value. Oh, okay. I mean, that sort of makes sense. That makes sense for sort of a generic scroll implementation, but because we're on the boundary, I guess what we should do is we should see if scroll Y was 0. And if scroll Y is 0, then swap it to 240. Right? Because we know if it's 0, that means we've got to switch name tables, which will happen. But by using scroll of 0, we're going to see a weird result because of that. And then there's code for handling that separately. All right, so that's probably what we need to do. I almost think it needs to be 241. Does that actually make sense? I don't remember what it's... Okay, so it's got to be 239. Okay. So 240. It's got to be set to 240 because we're going to decrement it somewhere over here. I think. We'll see. It may actually need to be 239, but either way, it's a simple thing to change. So this is process game. Increment. All right. So what we actually want to do is we want to load A, scroll Y, and then so if it's 0. Trying to think of what I want to do here. Actually, this is easier. Branch of not equal to, so if it's not 0, we're going to skip this part. Otherwise, we're going to load A. What is 240 in hex? F0, F0, and then we're going to store that into scroll Y. Actually, we want EF. We'll let it increment it here afterwards. I think that should fix it, because now if it's 0, we'll flip it over to the other side of the range that we need. And yeah, I think that'll do it. Good suggestions, Deedle. Thanks for your help there in putting the breakpoints in the right places here. So let's see. Oh yeah. And go back to normal speed for a moment. What just happened? How? Wait a minute. How did that? How did that? How did that? That can't be. Why did that change the colors of the trees? What are you working on these days, Deedle? If you don't mind sharing, obviously. What? How is that possible? Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. How's that stuff going? You know, it's funny because I didn't put the screen names together, and it didn't occur to me that that's what you were working on. Right now, I'm trying to make the SD card access on the N8 Pro. Oh, for like the expanded storage that you guys are doing with that mapper. That's pretty cool. How is it working on dumping the SD card into the character? Yeah. How is it working on building mappers for the well, just in general? Wow, that is nuts. Why is changing scroll Y changing the color of the trees? What is going on? Verilog isn't as bad as you might think, and Crix's code is a little... Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah, I've wanted to learn Verilog. I have a DE10 Nano, which obviously most everybody is using that for the Mister project, I think. But obviously, besides that, you can use it for, you know, just writing FPGA code. So there are a few tutorials that I've seen online where they talk about, writing Verilog for just basic stuff using an FPGA, and it seems really cool. Definitely interested in it, but obviously there's a lot going on, so it's just like, I'm not sure I have the time for one more thing related to all this stuff. Okay, what is going on with this? That's not a bad idea. I mean, you can... I wonder... You could almost... I guess that's probably what he's doing for... like the Mega EverDrive, where you can play NES games on the Mega Drive or Genesis. I guess, that's just all using the underlying hardware as like a render buffer, essentially, right? Like, all the logic for processing the game must be, I would think, just being handled by the FPGA as like an NES core. So you could probably do the same thing on the NES. That would be kind of neat. Right, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, he must have implemented the 6502 core, and then for the PPU logic, just used the Genesis, whatever the Genesis graphics hardware is for the output. And it's obviously got whatever limitations the NES has that the Genesis doesn't. I never actually tried that. I don't have a Mega EverDrive. Before he supported, before he supported the Sega CD functionality through the Mega EverDrive, Terra Onion had their, what's it called? I always confuse it because the names are... Is it the Mega SD? Yeah, because the Mega SG is Analog's console. The Mega SD supported Sega CD through ISOs on the cartridge. So, so I don't have a Mega EverDrive to try that out. It looks cool. It looks like it actually works pretty well. All right, so why the hell is changing? There's got to be something more to it than that. Like, if I just do this, is it the branch that's causing this problem? Yeah. Or maybe the value of A? What is it expecting in A? That it's not happy. No, A is set to 0. Yeah, once you get this worry, we can have arbitrary long full. No, the stuff you guys have shown off is really cool. I mean, and I like that you set the limitations. So for anybody who hasn't seen, and I don't know what's going on with Twitch tonight, but it's not showing the number of viewers currently correctly, but there are a few people on. But so for anybody who hasn't seen, Deedle and the team he's working with, they are working on a mapper for the NES that basically, it's like if you were to consider that if the NES got a CD-ROM drive, what would you be able to do? Because within the limitations of what the NES is capable of, and if I'm saying misstating anything, let me know. But basically, like, it's not doing any, like, I'm sure you guys have seen, yeah, right, around 1994 capabilities. So, like, I'm sure you guys have seen, like, oh, they made Doom on the NES, and then it turns out that it's just like a Raspberry Pi cartridge that runs Doom through the NES, and it's just like screwing around with the PPU to make it display Doom. So that's not what they're doing. They're building a mapper that actually, and by they I mean Something Nerdy Studios. So they are building a mapper that lets you load the content of essentially an SD card on the cartridge, as if it were like, some sort of slow, high capacity storage that was available at the time, that Nintendo never made available. Much higher capacity than the Famicom disk system, and CD-ROM drives were around simultaneously with the NES. So it's not like it was unheard of that such a thing. It's not like trying to do that with the the Atari 2600, and then it's completely like era inappropriate. So they really have, it's really cool what they're able to do, and that includes what Deedle was mentioning with playing back, full motion video through the NES, because, it's not high detailed quality full motion video, but it is full motion video, and it is definitely pretty good looking, and the storage was obviously the biggest problem with the well, I shouldn't say that, but it's one of the bigger problems that you would have with doing something like that on the NES. We're going to have options in the game to enable artificial load time, slow match. Oh, interesting. I don't know that I don't know that you actually need to go that far with the realism of it, because it's like load times are one of those things that I think we could all deal without. It's like you can argue all day long about whether or not something like an HDMI mod for a PlayStation 1 is a good thing, but I haven't heard anybody argue that, long load times on the PlayStation 1 was something that we have to that we have to have for it to be authentic. Although, I mean, there's something to be said about like that experience of, what it was like to game on a PlayStation 1 with actual load times. But, I have an X Station installed on my PlayStation 1, so it just reads everything off the SD card. And man, that's so much better than I mean, there's still load times, because you're limited by the bandwidth of the system to read the content off the SD card through the optical drive emulator, but it's still way better and way more reliable than an actual CD. So if you haven't check out their stuff, it's really, really cool. And Jared Jacuthiel is a cool guy. Spends a lot of time talking about what they're doing. None of it is a secret. And I've mentioned Franken Graphics a few times. She's doing artwork for them on their latest project. So, yeah, check out their stuff. It's really cool. All right. So, yes, Ellen is amazing. Why doesn't it like my branch here? What is going on? Skip. Something bizarre is going on, and I don't understand how adding this branch is causing my trees to change color. 5.5 floppy. Well, and the sound of it too, right? Like you mean 5.25 inch? That's 3.5 inch and 5.25 inch, but. Yeah, those drives are definitely, they have pretty nice sounds to them. You were having trouble with increment too. Well, it's not the increment that's the issue. It's the problem. The problem is somehow by doing this branch. Well, let's do this. If I just make this a jump, feel like I'm just doing something stupid. I'm going to be really embarrassed. No, that jump is... If I then comment this out... No, because like it's loading 0 into the accumulator the first thing it does. So, I'm so... That was the first thing I thought. Maybe there was some sort of implicit expectation that the accumulator had something coming in, but no, it's this is really bizarre. So now I got rid of the jump. I'm still loading and incrementing, but yeah. No. Is it the load? Is it because of just... Is it too many instructions? What is going on? Maybe variable allocation overriding. I had a problem where... Possibly, but... No, look, see, I just added a bunch of NOPs. And it caused the problem. I think we're taking too much time. Part of it is... So, okay, so it's a timing issue. Part of it is I did add this jump, this wait for VBlank here. Oh. Well, that's not even valid code. I think that's the problem, is that we're just taking too long, and it's causing a weird issue with our code. So, all right, let me do this for a moment. If we change this and get rid of our wait for VBlank. So the wait for VBlank, I put that in because we're loading the level while we're potentially rendering, which is a no-no, and that was causing that weird... No, that's not... How? Now, it's got to be something else. I wonder if it's we're pushing something over a boundary and we're not incrementing the 16-bit value properly. That seems more likely. And then the question would be, okay, so where... And I've heard the loading times on the Famicom disk system were pretty bad. I have an FDS stick that reads the disk image off a USB drive, which is pretty nice. This is crazy because like everything else seems pretty much fine. It's just is the palette that's wrong? What is this? Yeah, the palette is wrong. It got set to white for some reason. That is crazy business. What is going on here? Here, let's slow down. Oh. I think I just had the value 1 too high. Okay. That's fine. I knew that that might be incorrect, but it runs over the whole disk. Oh man. That's brutal. I gotta figure out why it's having a problem. That's a palette value that it's not loading properly. There must be something up with that. We'll get that figured out in a minute. Just want to focus on the scrolling stuff here first, because that's what we're trying to fix. It looks like if we fix the loaded palette value, we should be okay. Now that is also pretty bizarre. Let's see here. Let's just change this to 0, to black, I mean. So it's going to load that row. It's going to load the next row. And then that's totally wrong. Now we're looking at, what did I do? F. Load A, scroll. All right, let's take a look at this in the debugger, because maybe I'm making an assumption about this that's not right. I had assumed that the problem was that we are coming in at 0 and we're just leaving at 0, or we're not letting it flip over correctly when we hit that spot, because it is transitioning on a screen boundary. Actually have, I bought Legend of Zelda on Famicom Disk System, even though I don't have any way of playing it, just because it's my favorite series. So I figured I gotta have that and the Famicom cartridge version of that game too. All right, so did I close the PPU viewer? I did. So scroll Y is 0. We've reset the camera. If that's from the Wikipedia article, I think Jacuthiel has said that that's actually not correct. Somebody said that that's not actually correct. 5 1/4 was 1. Well, it depends. It was either 1.4 megabytes if it was double density, or 720K if it was single density. All right, so we are loading it and resetting it, and then it gets incremented to EF. And then Meant to have the breakpoint actually turned on. Oh, thanks. I'll see you later. Yeah. That's funny that you mentioned that. I mean, it was just compressing the drive, right? I don't think it was doing, and I think that if it had a problem, then you could lose everything. I don't remember the details. I never ran that stuff because amazingly, I just had a pretty basic. I had a decent sized hard drive. I didn't need to do that. It's already wrong here. What kind of dog do I have? He's a Havanese. He's a little guy named Charlie. And he is a big mush. Even though he's only 15 pounds. He just wants attention all the time. He can't help it. Here, I'll see if I can show that through the camera. Can you see that? Yeah, there he is. That's Charlie. So, he's a sweet boy. He just wants attention. Except if you're a mailman or an Amazon delivery guy. Then watch out. He's not generally a ferocious dog, but for some reason he just does not like delivery people. I think if you just normally walked up to him, he would have no idea and just be like fine, but if he sees you coming with a package. All right, so where are we? Scroll Y is ED, which means what? Now we're did we not swap? Something is just out of sync with this. Like that's the issue. Where's swap? Swap is at 44. Oh, actually, I don't know why I'm looking at that. So it is set to, yeah. Well, I do. Okay, so then I do want to know when that gets written to, because that's weird that it is set to 2. Right? 1 and 2. Mm. 2800. So it's telling it to use that, but then that means that that scroll value that we have is wrong. All right, so what on earth is going on? What have I done? First programming language I learned was BASIC, because the order of languages that I learned were based on accessibility to resources. So I learned BASIC because they had books about it in the school library, and then I learned about Pascal, or Turbo Pascal specifically, because a friend of mine, his father was an electrical engineer, and they had Turbo Pascal, and he was into learning programming too, and so between the two of us using Turbo Pascal, we wrote programs in Turbo Pascal to just try to do stuff. And then I discovered that the local public library actually had C programming books, so I would take those out, and I started learning Turbo C to try and figure out how to program like real games. And then from there, convinced my parents to buy me some books on C, and took a class through high school. I was able to take a class at the local university in C++ programming. No, I did not. I never tried basic programming on the DS. I didn't know about that. That's cool. His dad named him after the language? I hope that's not true. All right, so scroll Y is 0, and what is swap? Swap is 2. It is true. Oh God, should I have named my kid Basic and Pascal? Little Bobby tables. All right, so swap is wrong. Oh, I wonder if swap is wrong because we're changing this. That could be, that could explain, that could actually explain that. So let's take a look at this for a second. Yeah, so then I took C++, did okay with that. I was still in high school when I was learning that, and let's see. And then I got an internship at a local company here, doing some C++ stuff, because one of the guys that worked there had my math teacher in high school and said they needed kids who were knowledgeable about programming. There weren't very many because our high school didn't offer programming at all. So he knew I did some, and one of the other kids that he talked to, the math teacher, said to talk to me because he did not want to do that internship. So I did it, learned a ton, because it's one thing to take a class in C++. It's another to like actually work with C++ or any programming language in a real environment with people who have worked in it in a professional capacity. And what was really cool was we were working on a new audio mixing console that this company was producing, which was also really fun for me because I've always been pretty interested in audio equipment and audio recording. I play music, and so that kind of came as an extension of that. So when they told me that, I was in. I was ready to. I was ready to do that. I can actually see if I can pull up a picture of what the. Let's see if I can find. There's so few pictures of it online because it wasn't something that was like actually finished or released. They had a couple of units that they made for local studios to work with, but it was not something that like was mass produced. So everything was kind of bespoke, if that's the right word. So it was pretty cool, and it was all written in C++, running on Linux. There was some assembly code because it had to interface. It interfaced with the audio mixing hardware, which was pretty high-end audio equipment. And Yeah, there are no really good high quality pictures of it, unfortunately. But what was cool was that it was pretty futuristic in terms of like what it actually could do. So it had, routing of the audio channels digitally. Let's see, there's a picture of it. All the VU meters on the top were LED based, and you could actually configure the different level thresholds for like the warning and clipping thresholds. Yeah, it was, and each of these sections was a computer that was networked to one another. They were running Pentium class, high-end Pentium class CPUs. On it actually wasn't Linux, it was Qnix, which is like a real-time Unix operating system that has a graphical interface called Photon. So I was working on two things mainly. The first was I was working on cleaning up some of the code, what you would call tech debt these days. Yeah, it was huge, and it was like and it was configurable. You could buy as many sections as you wanted for as many channels as you needed. I think there was probably a limit, but it was like it was a big audio console, mixing console for like a professional audio studio. Yeah, so I was working on cleaning up a bunch of crap that was in their code that they needed cleaned up, and then once that they saw I actually knew what I was doing, and I'll say this, assembly actually helped me get that job because I'd learned a little bit of basic x86 assembly for some of the game programming I was doing in C. And the guy said to me basically that like once he saw that, he's like, okay, we got to get this kid because he knows what he's doing. Now, I kind of only barely knew what I was doing, but I knew enough to, cause trouble. Yeah, so it was, all of that was programmed in C. I never messed with that. Like I never messed around with any of the EQ and stuff like that, but it was all motorized, which was really cool because if you imagine a big console mixer with the dials and the faders, you could actually set programs for your mixes and record how you're moving the faders and changing the EQ. And then when you go to actually re-record or master, it could play back the movements of the volumes and EQ, and it would actually, you'd see the knobs and the faders moving as it did it. It was really cool. I don't know, I can't imagine that was a common thing even then. Yeah, all automated. And then you could do they had something called gang mode where you could put all the, like if you had all these instruments that you needed to have at the same volume, you could select one as the main slider and the main fader, and then you would press buttons on the other faders, and as you'd move the fader up and down, the other faders would follow. And like not only from an audio volume perspective, but you'd actually see the faders physically move up and down. It was pretty wild. It was really, really cool. So it was a really nice, like a really cool internship to get as a I was like 16. Yeah, I was 16 when I was doing that, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And also it was one of those things where it really proved to me that I liked coding, because it was like, these guys are paying me to do this and I would probably do it anyway, and they're paying me way more than I would get, working at like a drive-through or at the library or something like that. Not as much as probably they should have been, given that they couldn't find anybody else, as a kid, as an intern. But it was good. It was it was a decent amount of money. And then after that, they closed that office, so I was never able to go back, unfortunately. And then I got an internship at a much larger company here, and then ended up getting a full-time job with them and being with them for about 13 years total before switching jobs. So anyway, there you go. You got like my whole a long backstory there. So I expect that this increment, and then when we loop back, we're going to see the swap gets, yeah, so swap gets overwritten now because it's 0. But the problem, well, so then why was scroll Y 0 when we came through? That's weird, because it shouldn't have been. Like when we go to write scroll Y, it's actually correct here. And swap is 0. So swap is right. The scroll Y is right now, but it wasn't right on the previous frame. But yeah, so like through doing that kind of stuff, it was like eye-opening, because like I said, it told me, it showed me, and my parents too, I think, that like not only was this a serious thing, but also that I really liked doing it. You know, versus just like their teenage kid telling them, you know, hey, I really like programming, and they're like, my parents are not good with computers, even still. And so the idea that that's what I wanted to do for a living was kind of like foreign to them. My uncle, one of my dad's brothers, you know, was in IT and stuff like that. So he was able to, you know, help me by getting me equipment if I needed it, or, you know, at least telling my parents like what they should be buying, which was good because they had no clue. And to be honest, like neither did I at the time. Like I didn't really know enough to know what kind of computer I should be buying and what kind of hardware I needed at the time. Oh, that's cool. Do you do like private lessons, or do you teach at a bigger school? Again, if you know, I'm asking these questions. You don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable answering. I'm just curious. But yeah, I took guitar and piano lessons for many years. Still enjoy playing, just don't have the time for it as much as I used to. All right, so we're at the point where we are at scroll Y0. And swap is at 2. So this is the point where we should be now. Yeah, so we got this breakpoint. I don't even know if it was because it was futuristic. I think it was just because, like, one, my mom saw that I was good at music and thought that teaching music was like a, you know, a better career, which in retrospect, I'm not. I can be a good teacher when I want to, but like it's got to be something I really want to teach, and music was not it for me anyway. Oh, cool. That's awesome. So like, you know, for my bachelor's, I did music as one of my majors because I do enjoy it, but teaching, like I said, it's got to be something I want to teach, and music was not it for me. Right. That's funny. Why was he named after the mathematician? Is like your uncle or aunt a mathematician? right, so where are we at here? We've got swap is set to the second name table. Scroll Y is 0. Except Y. Oh, wait a minute. See, I'm talking to you guys, and I missed something here. Let's back up for a second because I totally missed that. I'm not like blaming you or anything, so I'm happy to have the chat. But I was like, oh, wait a minute, that is not what I was expecting to see. Ah, no. Oh, God, I went too fast. The emulation was scrolling a lot faster than I expected it to. All right, stop. Cool. Now, go. Okay, so we're at this point. I actually don't know. Maybe he looked like a triangle. It's possible. Newborn babies don't let anybody tell you different. Babies can be cute, but newborn babies look a little weird. Even when they're your own, they need a few days to kind of like shape up. All right, so scroll Y is 0, and then now it's 1, which is fine because we're going to decrement that. So we decrement that, and then we compare it. Oh. So it's because... I guess we want it to be 0. It was 0, and then we loaded the code. Then we incremented it back because what? Because we want it to trigger the row load, right? But the problem is that it triggering the row load with a 0, but the swap didn't get changed yet. So where is swap getting? They've been pruning for 9 months. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely like within a little bit of time, they start to be a little bit more actual baby shaped. So it's a little bit weird at first. Okay, so now this looks right. Oh wait, why did we come back in here without... Okay, so this has got to be... Scroll Y is getting reset, and then we're swapping. All we did was set the scroll X. Is this another case of like, because we're in the process of rendering at the same time? Swap is 0, scroll Y is that. Yeah, I guess it is. All right. Well, I mean, that all makes sense, but the problem then... the problem with this... Oh, well, no, wait. When we're setting 2005, that's in the NMI. Right? Yeah, that's in the NMI, so that shouldn't give us... that shouldn't give us any problem unless we're taking too long. Or it could be a timing thing related to, let's go back to this for a second. Part of what we said the issue was with the loading the level was that we were modifying some things while rendering was occurring. Right, so I added this wait for v blank, and that got rid of some of the problematic artifacting that we were seeing. But I'm wondering if it created a whole new thing where, like, as we're setting the swap and the scroll Y and whatever, because of the timing, that's the timings that are involved, we are only like doing half updates. So if we like forget about the other problem for a second, let's see if the scrolling problem actually occurred. Oh, that was too fast. Yeah, it did occur. It did occur. But you know what? It's probably also, yeah, it's just reading 2002. So I think the issue is, it's like we're hitting the scroll problem because, let's just do this for a second. I want to see the issue we're having is potentially that, like, because we're just interrupting the PPU in general, we're getting this weird artifacting when we do the transition. What we should do is, in the NMI, we should do the call to load level to actually process that code. If you read the 2002 on the cycle that the PPU. Right. No, that's true. But it was more so just to get rid of the problem we were seeing with it, like clearing out the attributes and doing weird stuff there. But I think it's just a bigger issue of, yeah, so like forgetting about the fact that the background data is wrong, which I expected. You can see that by not calling load level, it didn't do that jump. So the issue isn't my code logic per se. The issue is that we're manipulating the PPU during rendering. So what we really need to do is we need to do kind of like what we're doing with some of the other stuff, where we have that essentially like a command buffer for rendering, where we tell the NMI that we need it to do something for us, like update tiles. Because we can't do that in here, because we're potentially in the process of drawing that in the PPU. And Deedle, yeah, I mean, so like to make doubly sure that we're also in sync with the frames, if we do that with the NMI, then we know we're good. So the question now becomes, how do we, let's see. So we're going to have to do that, and then in addition to that, we need a way to pass the information about the fact that we need it to do the load level call. So like we can reset all of this other stuff, like the camera and the scroll register and all of that other stuff. That's fine, but the main issue is like this has to go away. So what we really need is we need like a command param 1 or something like that. Yeah. I think, you know, I wasn't really thinking about it because obviously I did that stuff with things like updating the row tiles. But I think because we were just, you know, it was working basically. It never occurred to me that this was a problem. So what do we actually need? We need parameter 1 and parameter 3. So we'll do the same thing, and then in the NMI, what we'll do is we will actually make use of those variables here. So game process game. So I want to put that into command param and command param, and then we're not going to wait for this, and we're not going to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to load a command update level and store that into or a meta tile flag, and store that into meta tile flag. So that's really our command. I don't know what you want to call it. Our command byte. So let's see, process gameplay state. So in here we have some stuff where we're looking at metatile flag to see if we need to do anything with this. So we want to do this all before reload palette. I should probably make that a command byte rather than a separate variable, but that's okay. We'll deal with that later. What was that, 327? So 327, that's not that important for what we're doing here. All right, so let's do this. So load a meta tile flag and it with command update level. So we want to see branch if equal to this. All right, so if it's equal, that means we're not doing the update of the level, otherwise we are. So we're going to load a command param1, store it into param1, load a command param3, store it into param3. Then we call load level. Actually wonder if load level should use command param exclusively, because we use param 1 and 3 in other code and I don't want it to get clobbered by anything. So let's let's change this. It's kind of a pain that we have to, but then we don't have to worry about it breaking anything else. And then we can also just change the initial call to this to use command param 1 and 2. And it's okay that that's being called directly rather than through the NMI, because we're doing it for the purposes of just loading the level initially. Versus while we're in the midst of a level. I didn't realize this was going to be such a juicy bug. All right. So what did that say? That's what it modifies. Some of the stuff, it's fine that it's modifying it because we expect it to. All right. Actually, just wanted to search for that as a whole word. That's it. And that's it. Okay. So that's that. And then load level. So this should be command param and command param. All right, that's that, that's that. So here, we don't actually need to do anything. We just know that that's going to be set coming into this. So we just call that. We only need to do it once we know that this is set. Well, let's see how that goes. Could be that first thing we do is all busted because it doesn't even load the level. Yep. Saw that coming. All right. So, command param 1, command param 3, load level. Why is that not working? Am I expecting it to do something that it is not doing? Load level. Command param 3. Swap, scroll Y. Command param 1. It's bogus. What's going on? My palettes aren't loaded. Okay. Is there some sort of something I'm not aware of here? No, okay. So it didn't like to change the command param, I guess. Oh, there is also this call. No, yeah, that's the call that we were just doing. Okay. What gives? Load level. low level objects. Low level objects. What is this using? It's just using level object data, so that's okay. How did I break that? Or more specifically, how did what I do break that? I know how I broke it, but not sure why that broke that. All right, so let's reload. We're coming in command param is 3 is 0. So it's going to blank and redraw the whole screen, which is what we want. So it sets swap up and scroll Y. Scroll counter. Command param 1 is that. That's fine. So it's going to load some addresses up. Background mode. Our row memory, max rows. All this stuff looks normal. Where does it deal with the palettes? Here's our palette loop. Yeah, that's scene 29, 37. All of that looks correct. As far as the palette values go, where is the the RTS? Oh, that's a load full screen over here. Let's just see where runs. Okay, so if we go to the PPU, why are all of these not set? It looked like it was doing it. And the sprite palettes are weird too. Let's see. That's where we're setting up the palette. The only thing I can think of is that for some reason that's not right. 9A43. 9A43. Yeah, that's right. EC2937, E122237. So that's, and then F's for the rest of the values. So it's going to store that into 2007 and then be done with that. So, okay, the palette is good right now. And then, oh, I wonder if it's calling, are they calling load level too many times or something? Like there's some sort of bug in the command? I don't think so. No. All right, so what's going on? What's going on with that? Where's our palette stuff again? We make it through there and everything looks correct. So then we load a command param and we push it. And then we load X0 and then We have our sprite palette loop. We do an OR of that. We store it into... Oh, okay, right. Oh, because load palette is... Crap. I forgot. Where's load palette? It takes param 1 and param 2. So that's why that's not working, because it's overwriting. Where else do we call that? JSR load palette. Nowhere, just in load level. Okay, so that makes the decision easy. Here it is. Instead of trying to figure out some other solution that might work, but will further complicate things. This is the only place it's being called. It's going to use command param, and that will solve that. Okay. Simple solution. So let's reload and start, and we should. Well, so now what? Did I miss something? Param 1. Those are the only places that that is set. Param 2. Oh, come on, you dummy. It's right there. Like, really? Okay. Hey, we got our colors back. Okay. So now back to the thing that we were trying to do, which was not modify how palettes are loaded, but rather to see if the transition will occur smoothly and correctly once we get to the point where we're actually invoking it through the interrupt, rather than in the middle of potentially... All right. I think I may have actually removed that in the NMI. Did I comment it out? No, I didn't. So let's see if we are, in fact, calling it here now. JSR load level. There it is. That certainly doesn't look like it. Get out of here with these breakpoints. This is Messin. It is not the fastest emulator from what I've heard, but it is the most fully featured debugger. And to me, that is more important, because not being able to debug the code efficiently is way more of a problem. I mean, the debugger works basically like Visual Studio, if you've ever used that, in terms of like key commands and the way it lets you do things. It is so intuitive and properly designed. It is really, really... Oh yeah, the event viewer too. Yeah, that, I mean, just everything about it. It's so well designed. So, all right. So, process game. And one funny thing that happened was when I first started. No dark mode. When I first started this whole stream, I was working on something and had a problem while I was messing around with it, and Sour, the developer, actually had apparently watched the stream. So he was like, "Oh yeah," he commented on the YouTube video. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's a known issue. It'll be fixed soon." It's pretty funny. I was not expecting that. Another sort of funny moment was when I was working on something and it just wasn't working. I don't even remember what it was and why it wasn't working or whatever, but I'm working on it, and what's his name? Why am I drawing a blank? Memblers was on this, listening in on the stream. Whoa, why is this doing that here? Oh, that's update tiles. I'm looking at the wrong one. Memblers was on the stream, and if you don't know who Memblers is, he's one of the earliest, like, real homebrew programmers. He created GT-ROM, the mapper that a lot of homebrew games still use, and all this other stuff. So he was on. He knows NES programming inside and out. And I was trying to figure it out, and he just was, and I'm like answering questions. He's like, "Oh, did you do this?" I'm like, yes. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Did you do that?" I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "I don't know." And it was kind of humbling and funny to have somebody who, like, knows the NES and programming the NES so well just be in the same position and just be like, "Yep, I don't know." So that was fun. That was a fun early experience. I mean, it's, the emulator is not by any means perfect, but it is pretty damn good. Really, the only thing that I don't care for with it is that when you have the debugging tools open, it really degrades the performance of being able to like accelerate the emulation timing like I do when I'm trying to skip through a bunch of stuff. But at the same time, it's totally understandable, and I can't really criticize too much about that. So command update level is 4, and then metatile flag is 0. So we're going to OR that. That's 4. And we're going to store it into metatile flag. Oh, but you know what? We're probably setting that somewhere. Damn it. We're probably zeroing it out because we think that nobody else is using it. What is the address? 9C. Right to 9C. Yeah. Right in the beginning, we're zeroing it out. So, you know what we'll do? Yeah, I mean, but like at the same time, like I said, it's really hard to criticize something like that because it's like such a niche thing, and while it would be nice if it didn't happen, it's totally, I'm totally okay with it. I'd rather have all the functionality we have than worry about that. It's okay. So all I did here was I changed it so that we don't clear out the metatile flag when we loop back to process game, because we were doing that by going back to here, but we don't want to do that. We actually need this to stick around, so that's why it wasn't picking up on the fact that we needed to load the level in the NMI. All right, so you go away. Boom. All right, let's see if it does this correctly now. So Alright, come on. I guess I can close a few windows to help with making things a little bit more efficient. No, it still didn't do it. Why? Oh, because it's still doing it in other places. Grr, why are you... No, well, it is, but that's not, like, that's the result, that's the symptom of the problem. The problem is that we are not loading in the new level data properly, and it is because... Oh, we are just clobbering values here, aren't we? It's because it's not getting the command to actually process that correctly. Like, so in here we're just forcing the update by getting rid of all the rest of the flags, which is not what we want. This is okay. Skip scroll process. This should not zero this out because we've already zeroed it out. Update tiles, that's good. Update attributes, that's good. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. I think that will cover everything. So we were clobbering that command to the code in the NMI to load the level data, and that obviously breaks what we're trying to do. So let's see if we actually get it now. And then that'll fix those broken tiles. It's funny that the enemies don't like actually get you while you're zooming through like this. It reminds me of, there it is. It reminds me of reviews of bad games where like it's easier to succeed by not playing than it is to actually try and play the game. Obviously this is just, you know, me testing stuff out, but it's just kind of funny to think about. All right, so, what was that? That was something. So it sort of worked. It sort of totally messed things up too. That was weird. Let's see here. Just scroll through and like actually watch what's going on. I expect that it is... Oh, that was full emulation. I expect that what's happening is potentially we're running out of NMI time for everything, or something else is going on. I'm not 100% sure. It shouldn't be messing with the character data like it did, because we're just updating... Should just be updating the backgrounds, unless... Oh, you know what? Maybe we are reloading the character data in low level, now that I think about it. Load palette. That's the only thing we're loading there. Why would that be corrupting? Slow down. So the only thing I can assume here is that we must be taking too long now in the NMI. And so we start rendering and we're still in the process of loading level data, which can mess things up. But I also don't know, like, how long are we taking? All right, so what we can do, let's see. Let's do this. We're gonna count cycles, and we're gonna do that by doing a load A with FF, and we're going to store that into, I should probably know this, 7FF, and we're going to store this into 7FF, which is the last address in the RAM. And then we're going to, before we return from subroutine, we're going to write to this again with FE. But basically what I'm doing is I want to see when we actually do the write to both of those and look at the cycle and subtract, and we'll see how many cycles we've consumed and if that's actually too many or if there's just a bug. It feels like it's a problem of cycle count, but who knows? And this will be a quick way to determine that. So we will see an initial breakpoint on hello, what are you doing? We will see an initial breakpoint in the game after we start, because we're going to load the level and that's going to do the thing. Oh, the emulation is really slow. That's why. I was like, what is going on? Okay, so actually, you know, we could even time it just based on that too, because that's the more expensive version because it's got to load the full screen up. So let's see, our cycle is that. That's the current cycle number, and then the new cycle number is that. So this minus that, 153,389 cycles. That's way too many. Way too many. Where's the NMI info? I want to say it's like 27,000 cycles for the entire NMI duration. It's just, it could be the code is inefficient. It could be it's just not going to be possible to process it like that. in the NMI, 24,000 cycles. So we are, we are like 6 times too long. Now the thing is, that's the more complex version of loading the game data. So I want to just double check the repeat scroll load, but it's gonna still be too much. All right, so we're at that's our starting cycle count. Yeah, well, we're working on the repeating scroll visual glitch, but we had kind of come to figure out what was causing that, but now the issue is that we can't fix it in quite the way that I wanted because it's taking up too many cycles in the NMI and causing a different problem. Well, okay, so that actually seems more reasonable because now we're only using 1,300 cycles for the shorter load, which that actually makes sense, right? Like that's what I kind of expected it to be more along, like the first load is not only, well, it's not a matter of it. Yes, I mean, the complexity translates the number of cycles, potentially. But in this case, the issue isn't so much that it's, like, too complex for it, necessarily. The issue that we're seeing is, I thought that we're using too many cycles, but I was just able to confirm that because remember, there are 2 versions of the load for low level. There's the version that draws the entire screen out, and then there's the version that just preps everything for continuing to scroll another section of level that it loaded. And the one that draws out the entire screen is obviously more complex because it's got to actually fill the entire screen. The other version is very simple because it's just setting up some pointers and some variables. So that took far less time, but something else is going on. It's not waiting, right? So let's see what's going on here. It's not using, I don't think it's actually doing any of that randomizing right now. Because I think it's just kind of, it pre-randomizes. I don't remember exactly, but I don't think that's the issue necessarily. We'll see. I'm going to use the same thing here, and we're going to see what the timing looks like. We're going to use the script to calculate. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Can't think what else you are doing during the looping section. I mean, it's something else is obviously happening. I just want to eliminate timing so I'm not pulling my hair out trying to figure out like what I broke, and then find out that it was something relatively straightforward. And by straightforward, I mean just like it's a timing thing. So let's just look at fixing that versus there's like an actual code bug. So, all right, let's go to the script window here. There was a way in the script at one point, I don't know if it's still here or not. I don't think I have it anymore. So let's do this. There is a way that you can say that you want to be alerted to a CPU write, but I don't remember exactly how that works. So add event callback. Function type. Start address. Okay, so it's just 7FF. And memory updated is the function. Right, and what does it take? Mem callback type. Function, a Lua function gets the address and the value. And so what I want to do is, let's see here, start. I think I was doing it here like globally, if I remember right, and right, does that work? Yeah. Oh, except I don't want to do this every single cycle. Okay. So when it actually updates that address, if value is equal to, I don't remember the syntax for Lua very well. If value is it double equals? Oh man. All right. Lua if syntax. I really don't remember if it uses then or not. Then, okay. Right? Or no, just end. So that's else. Yeah, sorry, my Lua knowledge is like super limited here. So if that value is equal to that, then start cycle is equal to, there's a way to get the CPU, the current CPU cycle. I literally just want to know, is it just cycle count? Oh, mu get state dot CPU dot cycle count. Mu dot get state dot CPU dot cycle count, and then end cycle is mu dot get state CPU dot cycle count, and then I want to draw a string. Do it at like 40. Who knows if that's going to work? Is that going to work? What's wrong with my Lua? Let's see, draw cycle. Mu draw string. How do I do? I want the background to be 0 like it was with this guy. I should probably put these in parentheses. Save and run. Alright, so why am I not seeing this? Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's far too far down. There we go. And then, so it's writing FF to, where is RTI? Okay. You can get cycle counts of the code, and the performance analyzer can give you averages. I know it can give you averages, but I was kind of curious to see like what the specific. I guess it doesn't really matter. This is not working anyway. Is it not working because it's not actually? What is going on with this? No. Min cycles, max cycles, average. Also gives you NMI timing. All right, we'll take a look at that rather than waste some time with this. So NMI. So like, you know, that's all fine because we haven't really done anything. Where did NMI go? So it's there. That's not even that many cycles. That was only 1600 cycles, it said. So that seems unlikely that that's the problem. My cycle counting must have been messed up, or maybe those are. Are those not individual cycles? Are those like microcycles or something? Those are CPU cycles. Right, but I was looking at the cycles here and trying to compute how many cycles it took based on when I hit the breakpoints, and it wasn't. It was giving me a much higher value. So maybe something. Maybe I just messed up. I don't know. But like, yeah, why is it doing that? So 3,000 cycles is the max when it hits that point. But even that, 3,000 cycles, where is... Did I close that? I did. I closed it. I think it said... Oh, is that maybe not enough time? Is it like 2,700 is the maximum or something it said? 2,400? I just saw that. No, I thought it was... I thought it was a lot more than that. Where am I? Yeah, 24,000 cycles. So it's saying 24,000 cycles. You're saying 2273. So am I just misreading this? Waiting for NMI in this way would miss... Oh, they're saying 24,000 cycles per frame, not the V blank. Okay. So I am going too far into the V blank time. Not as much as I was calculating when I was looking at the cycle count in the debugger, but I feel like that must be a different count then, or something. I don't know what was up with that. But so like 3,000 cycles is too much. So that's probably why we're hitting this corruption in the PPU. So really the problem then becomes there's just too much going on in here. So now we gotta start looking at what can we do to make this a little bit faster and cut some cycles out. But even still, that's really tight. Like, even if we can get it down underneath the total cycle count, that's still going to be a problem. Like, if we have to add anything else. So I got to figure out what's going on and why, and like what's actually causing, what can we do to make this faster. So you can see like load level, the maximum. Oh, it looks like it takes a consistent 1378. So I mean, that's good that it's consistent. That's weird that though. How's that possible? Where is load level? All right, so load level. Okay, that makes more sense because that's, like I said, that's doing a whole load where it's loading the entire screen. It's still a lot of time, but it's not as ridiculous, or it's not the same as when it's not just the little minimal stuff that we were doing for transitioning. So where'd load level go? Okay, that makes more sense. So thing is that, can you reset these? You can. So I would need to do this. Yeah, and unfortunately, like all the stuff that's in there is PPU related. But maybe what I can do, I take that back. There is stuff that's being done in load level that has nothing to do with the PPU. So what we can do is we could split up that work. I'm not going to do that tonight, but we could split up that work. So like, there's a bunch of prep work that's being done, figuring out pointers and whatnot. We can get all of that stuff done separately. And then there's this code that's going in and it's loading up data into the background and whatnot. And that stuff can happen in NMI separate from the other prep work that's being done, I think. So that's what we'll have to do to make that work. So like loading the palette, obviously we need to do in the NMI, but there's this whole chunk of stuff in the beginning that's all just messing with variables. So, and it's setting up this attribute buffer. What else? We'll have to go through and look at like where we're actually touching the PPU, because there are a bunch of places that we're doing stuff that has nothing to do with the PPU directly. But then we, like I said, we have these spots. So, all right, that'll be for next time. So like I said, we'll do an episode Thursday, and then next week I'll be off, no stream for the holidays and for the new year. So I will see you on Thursday. As always, you can reach me on Twitter as Clairvis, at Clairvis. You can feel free to comment on the video below the description on YouTube. Yeah, thanks, Deedle. I'm glad you were able to stay the whole time, and I appreciate the help and the tips there. So what else? I'm on Video Game Sage as Xelius, Xelius. You can email me at xelius@gmail.com. I am on Discord as Clairvis. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. I don't need to go into the whole spiel this time. Deedle and Lunatrek and MDTA UK, and let's see, who else did I not mention? Johnny Manjiro and Brandon, you were on earlier. Thanks for joining the live stream. Appreciate it. There might be others here that I did not mention, but let's see, bunch of people who were here chatting today. Yeah, thanks for joining. Sorry this is a very rambly end. Have a good night, and I will see you on Thursday. Take care.